Welcome to Leading Large. I'm Anna Roussos, and this podcast is designed to empower you with the skills and mindset necessary to excel your career within the construction, property, engineering, and architecture sectors. Whether you're embarking on a professional journey or seeking guidance, tune in every fortnight as myself and industry leaders will share practical strategies, tips, and insights to help you gain clarity and propel your career forward with purpose. Leading Large is your regular dose of inspiration and a guide to assist you in unlocking your full potential. I'm thrilled to have you on this journey. This is Leading Large with Anna Roussos. Al Crosby is BESIX Watpac General Manager for Victoria and South Australia, an invaluable member of the Tier 1 construction company for over the last 15 years. Al has experienced a fascinating and highly rewarding career path at BESIX Watpac, from project management to senior project management, construction manager, state manager for South Australia, and most recently, his new role of general manager across South Australia and Victoria. Thank you for coming along. So Al, we're going to get straight into it, but I want to actually know what made you go into construction.
It's a good question. I didn't originally. I wasn't interested in construction. It wasn't something that really clicked with me. I was more.
So no family, no mum and dad, no one in construction, brothers, sisters?
No, well, I think my dad was once a registered builder in Victoria, but he can't even pick a hammer up. So I don't know how he did that, but there was no interest there whatsoever. But as I got towards the end of school, I was very interested in architecture, and mainly because I could get into the course because of my score. And I thought, well, it's kind of interesting. I like to draw, but I'm not very good at drawing, but maybe I could learn and understand that a bit more. So I started off in architecture for a year.
I didn't even know that, Al.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't tell that many people because I failed the first year. So
don't tell them that.
Yeah. So I actually passed all the other core subjects except for studio, which was design. And it just wasn't me, but I really liked the construction side of it because in the first year, the architecture students and the construction management students did a lot of subjects together, and all my mates from uni were doing construction management. So when I didn't pass, it was an opportunity for me to move into construction management degree that way. So, and I was drawn to it from trying to understand the built form and what I was really wanted to learn about was the process of building and not necessarily the technical, but the people side of it.
How did it all come together?
How does it all come together? Because I think that's what most people look at: large buildings, small buildings. How do people do people know where they need to be at what time, and how does that all work? And I think that's a bit of a mystery for people, which I understand well now, but that's really what drew me in to try and understand that.
So when you were studying your degree, did you have another job?
Yes, I had several, mainly in hospitality.
Okay.
But as I went deeper into my degree, I ran a pub and a nightclub for a number of years, which was really interesting. Not a great lifestyle and didn't really fit into probably me doing that, the best I could at university. But it was a great time in my life of being social and going out and meeting a lot of people and what have you. So. It was an opportunity, I guess, for me to do something a little bit different away from where, my career would go eventually.
So I think looking back to that time now, when you were doing your studies and also working, is there anything that you've taken from your work that's actually helped you in your career in construction?
I think
I'm coming from the fact that, I think some university students will go, do I work? Do I not work? Should I just focus on the degree? Yeah. Should I, because it's hard sometimes to juggle the both.
Yeah, I think it was never just about university. It was about the lifestyle, and it was about, what else can I get out of it? And I needed money to live, so I wasn't supported by my parents, at that age. So, but I think what I took from it was just it taught me a really good work ethic. I think I had like the basis of a good work ethic from my parents, and they both worked very hard. But you can take that on, but you actually have to go do it as well and experience it. So in doing that, I worked really hard in those jobs, even though it was, working in a pub and it wasn't where I wanted to be necessarily long term, but I made the best of what I could and took out, as much as I could from learning about managing people, managing money, managing all sorts of different walks of life.
That's great. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I just wanted to make sure, just in case the guests don't know, but you're originally from Geelong.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
So you studied in Melbourne?
In Geelong.
In Geelong
Deakin.
as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And obviously you're now living in Adelaide, so we'll go into that.
Yep.
But, you finished your degree. What was your first role in construction?
So my first role was working for Kane Construction in Melbourne as an estimator and a junior estimator.
As an estimator, right. The role that no one wants to do.
Well, I think at that age, nobody wants to do it.
Yeah.
But it's certainly the correct pathway for people who coming through out of university or working while they're at university to come through the estimating pathway. So at the time I felt, pigeonholed and caged up because all I wanted to do was get on site and put some boots on and watch concrete being poured. Yeah, when I look back and reflect on it, it's just such a great opportunity to learn.
Kane aren't here in Adelaide, so and I haven't recruited for them in the past. What type of business are they? Like, are they a tier 3? Like, what type of work would they normally do? Are they tier 2 in Victoria?
Yeah, so they're probably tier 2 in Victoria. At the time, they were doing more school type of work and some remote work. Lots of schools, lots of institutional type of work, projects up to maybe 50 million. Yeah. So there was a good variety, but they had some really, it was privately owned, and the owner was very hands-on, and he was also very direct as well. So it was a really interesting introduction to the world of that direct communication that we see in construction. And not only did I learn the technical side of it, how to price work and how to talk to subcontractors, but I really learnt that valuable lesson of, you're in the big wide world, you're accountable, you're an adult, and you're going to be treated like an adult. So if you mess up or you don't do, what you're supposed to do, you have to find that accountability, or people will hold you to account.
I love the fact that you started in estimating, and I want to unpack this a little bit more, because you would know, a lot of the graduates are finishing their degrees, and instantly they're thinking, I've done my construction management and economics degree, and I want to be a project manager. And not everyone's suited to becoming a PM. And I also believe that doesn't mean that you're successful in construction just because you've become a PM. And an estimator is such a great career path for someone. I know that when my husband also started in the industry, he started in a business that was just growing, but he took on many hats, which included, he was prepared to do estimating, he was prepared to doing the contracts admin, he was prepared to be the document controller, the site assistant. He just wanted to understand all the different elements of construction. For someone that, who's coming out of uni and going, no, I need to go into a contracts admin role, or it has to be project coordination because that's the only way I'm going to get into project management. What other key benefits do you see them going down the estimating stream? Because I used to have, for every 10 graduates I interviewed, 50-50. One would go quantity surveying, estimating. The other half would want to go contract admin, PC. Now it's every 1 in 10 that will consider that career path of estimating. So what do we need to be telling them? Like, why is it good to go into being an estimator? You've tapped in already.
Yeah, well, I think being a PM isn't all it's cracked
cut out to be. We'll talk about that too. Yeah.
And I was set on that path. I had exactly the same mindset, which is why when I was in estimating, I was like, I need to get out of here, and I need to go and experience the site and the concrete and all those sorts of things. But when I look back and I reflect on it, it was the grounding and the basis that I needed to be successful. And when we bring our grads in at BESIX Watpac now, we rotate them through estimating, and the ones that do the best are the ones that have their first rotation within estimating, because they get to actually see how the business operates. Yeah, there's
a strategic element to it.
Yeah,
you're right at the front end, looking at what's coming through the design, the cost of it all, but you're working very closely with management at the same time. So you're actually getting the ability to be seen and noticed more.
Yes, exactly. So I think you get that technical training, you get the exposure to how the machine works, because again, people don't understand how building or construction companies necessarily work and operate and how they're set up. So that learning journey is just so important, because when you go to site, and whether you do a site engineer role or a contract admin role, you can understand it in the broader context of the business and what's important to the business. So it's a terrific grounding, but not only that, it's a terrific career as well. And I wouldn't have said that 20 years ago when I started, but when my time as a general manager or doing those sorts of roles are over, I would have no problem going back and doing an estimating role, because I think they're interesting. It's dynamic because it's always changing. You're always under time pressure.
I think I just want to say, like, although I'm not a big believer that you should be purely motivated by money when it comes into your career, but I can say that some of the estimating managers in South Australia are getting paid more than senior project managers.
Yes.
So, if you are motivated by the monetary side, it is a very strong career path to go
and so they should, because it's a difficult job. It's really, you have to make some really difficult calls, and if it goes wrong, everybody looks to you, and so you're paid well to make those decisions and those really smart decisions. So, the best estimators are the ones who have a 360-degree view on the business. They've been on site, they've done admin, they've got good subcontractor relationships, and that only comes with time.
Yeah. So you finished off at Kane, you were there for a few years, and then you've moved over to, what was the next employer that you worked for?
At a small builder and civil company called J.A. Dodd.
And you mentioned that they were then taken over by?
So they were then purchased by Watpac in about 2007.
And then you've actually now been with Watpac, which is now BESIX Watpac for over 20 years.
Nearly 20 years, like 17, 18.
So in your first 5 years, so through that initial time, what are the key things, that you did day to day that make you, I guess, made you stand out from all the other graduates that are coming through to be noticed?
Probably didn't stand out to start with.
Why? You're still doing DJing?
Yeah, probably. No, well, I think, you're trying to find your way in the world and trying to find what you want to do. And, I probably struggled in that transition from university into the real world. But one thing I've always done, and I still do today, is I spend a lot of time observing things before I'll move forward and not necessarily make a decision. But, as I'm learning, I really like to observe things and people as well, because I think I've really modelled my leadership style around people that I've worked with and that I've observed, and not just looking at the things that I like about what they do, but also looking at the things that I don't like to do, and making sure that I'm not doing those things, and then put it into the pot and you get your own style. So I spent a lot of time doing that in those first 5 years, and trying different things and testing things out and talking to a lot of people, going in without knowing that I don't know everything, and being prepared to ask questions and give things a go. And so as I did that, it was probably a slow start, but as I developed my style and what I wanted to do and what success looked like for me, I gradually built momentum in my career in those first 5 years to try and stand out, to a point where I was saying, I want more work, I want to take on more work, I want to be pushed.
More responsibility.
Yeah, because I think in those years I probably got bored very easily. And that's because if I wasn't being pushed, my mind would drift off to do other things, go to the pub or whatever it might be at that time. So I was always saying to my leaders at the time is, load me up, give me more, because I want to learn, because I want to make mistakes, so then I can learn more. And I want to work under pressure. What does that mean
then when it comes to hours? Because if you're taking on more, like construction's already a demanding industry to work in. Maybe at that time you didn't have your beautiful wife and children, but what sort of, what hours were you working? Because so it sounds like to me you were recognised because of your work ethic and your inquisitive nature.
Yes. Yeah. So I think, the hours in construction just during the week are long, but I've always been quite protective of my weekends and that sort of time as much as I can. So I think the benefit of learning in a lower tier or a smaller business is that when you do a role, if you're a contract administrator, you're not just a contract administrator, you're doing shop drawing reviews, RFIs, you're sitting in design meetings, you're doing this whole gamut of different activities. Whereas when you're in a tier one, you kind of sit in your slot and you do that one or two tasks. So you actually become very good at at
multitasking.
and what you do, you understand the value of time.
Yeah.
And probably that's one of the issues we have today, particularly in tier one construction, is that people may not understand the value of time and how they can work through things efficiently if, they're doing kind of one singular task. And we kind of all stick in our lane. Whereas in that lower tier, you have to be a jack of all trades, so you become very efficient at doing things. Now, you probably don't do things as well, but at the end of the day, you still get the job done.
So for people who are aspiring to become project managers, which is a greater portion, the ones that complete their degrees in construction management economics, what are some of the key foundations that you implemented in your career that made you a successful project manager?
I always tried to be really honest and open with my clients, subcontractors, and my team, because I've found that helped get outcomes and results. Because if you're open and honest with people, transparent people will reciprocate to you. So, which is a way you can solve a lot of problems. And in construction, project managers are really there as problem solvers to get the roadblocks out of the way. So, I tried to bring a genuineness to how I went about things. I wanted to make sure that people always got paid. They got paid the variations when they were, legitimate, and they knew that if they were coming onto one of my projects, that it was going to be, they were going to hopefully make money, and that it was going to be good
Everyone's
experience.
going to get a good outcome.
Yeah.
And then as a PM, what's the secret in making sure that you have a good working relationship with not just your team, but I guess your site manager as well?
I think just understanding where the common goal is. If you understand the common goal, and if you can have that personal relationship and touch with them in that it's not just, you want to understand them as the person, maybe not the site manager. And once you understand them as the person, then the site manager piece fills itself in, because those interpersonal relationships really are what are so important to actually getting results. So I often say to people, even now, is like I like to muck around. I like to have a joke. I think it's really important to what we do. So try not to take ourselves too seriously. But when we're on and we're working, then we're really focused on what we do. So try not to take. I've never tried to take myself too seriously. Love to throw a joke out there. Sometimes they're not that funny. I get told quite often, but
dad joke.
Dad joke. Yeah. Try and avoid those at work, but not at home. But I think people like authenticity. They respect it, and that they will go the extra mile if you're authentic, and that you have a genuineness about you. Because at the end of the day, construction is about managing people and process, and the people part is the hardest part.
Yeah. So you were with them for a little while before you decided to make the journey to the amazing South Australia.
Yes.
When you moved over from Geelong to Adelaide, you came on board and was it initially as like project director for Adelaide Airport? Is that transition across?
Yes.
Apart from being obviously an iconic project for South Australia, the terminal looks fantastic. What was the other key drivers that you moved? Did you still had 4 kids at that time?
Three
to move your family and your 3 children across to Adelaide.
Yeah. Oh, look, it was just adventure more than anything. I think
South Australia's better.
Yeah, I say that now. I didn't say that then.
You can't say that because you're a general manager of both.
I know. Yeah. Well, I remember I was sitting with my manager in Victoria at the time, or 2 of them, and like we do in construction, we went for a whiteboard session because I said, I don't know what to do, like, do I go or do I not go? And I go
or do I? I'm sure there's a song out somewhere.
There probably is. And they were really supportive of me going, even though I was going to exit their business. But, we did the whiteboard session, and at the end of the day, Nick and Spiro, they both said to me, there's a lot of people in everybody's way in Melbourne, so if you sidestep that and take a leap of faith out here, who knows, you could go around, you could go up, you could go anywhere.
You might come back.
Right? Yeah. And so, I thought about it, and I thought, you know what, like, if I keep just doing what I'm doing, I don't have any control over it, and I'm just taking the safe path. And so it was like, well, let's try something different and something new, because if you don't take a chance, you don't know. So, and it's not like it's that far. away. You know, it's only an hour by plane, but it was new. We didn't know anybody here, and I didn't know if I'd enjoy it. And there's no babysitters. Yeah. So, but it was about taking the opportunity and where that opportunity could take me.
Was that the pinnacle moment in your career? Because I guess, look, you've gone through, because, you go through your career, it's all about delivering projects.
Yeah.
As a project manager, it's like, oh, what's the next great project for me I can work on? When was it that you went, actually, I wouldn't mind being a leader of a business? Like, did that happen? Or was it more so just going, there was an opportunity, so I said, hey, how do you think about maybe being state manager of South Australia? Like, or was that the pinnacle moment of going, no, I want more than just to be a project director leading a project. I want to lead a team.
Yeah, I think you always want more. Like, you always want to take another step somewhere to, maximize your ability and see how far you can go to be the best you can. But there was never a moment where I thought, I need to do something. I want to be a state manager. I want to be a general manager. I think it just happened organically. Yeah. I mean, when I was a project manager, to me, that was the pinnacle at the time, because I was so desperate to be that. And I remember people used to say, well, what do you want to be in 5 years at that time? And I used to say, I'm happy being a project manager. Like, I enjoy delivering projects and working with people and that sort of thing. But then opportunity just came and it drives you, and, but along that journey, even though I probably didn't have necessarily the aspirations to do what I'm doing now, or I didn't recognize it, somewhere inside I must have known, because, I kept working really hard to try and, to be the best I could. And I think that's probably the lesson, is that if you work hard, good things will come to you. And then once those good things come, you have to work even harder.
And I feel also for yourself, it's also looking at how you can continue to evolve, and learn and take on a new skill set as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So now that you've worked in Melbourne and in Adelaide, a lot of the time we find that we lose graduates to interstate because apparently projects are just not sexy enough here in South Australia.
Yeah.
What's your take now? Like, do you feel that, to do well in your career, regardless whether it's a project manager or an estimator, do you feel that they do need to go interstate to be successful? Or can they, I'm trying to gauge, what you sort of feel is the market difference when it comes to talent and skill set and technical ability between Adelaide and, I guess, Victoria, Melbourne.
Yeah, but don't necessarily need to go interstate to get the experience. I think the projects that we have here are more than enough, particularly as you're coming into the market. There's lots of smaller type of projects where you can cut your teeth and even cut your teeth as a PM on them, early in your career. But in saying that, I understand why people are drawn to Melbourne or to Sydney to work on those mega projects, and I think that's completely fine if that's what they want to do, and then come back with that skill set. But I don't see that there's a difference in talent between somebody who's come through a pathway in South Australia as to somebody who's gone to Melbourne and then come back. I see they're all on equal skill set. There's benefits and minuses to them of subcontractor relationships and how you can use those in each market. But I think that whichever pathway they go, they will still come out as hopefully a well-rounded individual. And
so you've touched on this a little bit, but I just want to go back to, if you're a graduate coming out, a lot of the time if I ask a graduate, I go, oh, who do you know in the marketplace? And they're always like, oh, Land Lease and obviously BESIX Watpac. They always sort of mention the large global contractors. And I feel that not everyone's always suited to some of the larger firms or, contractors. Like you've worked in a bit of both. Where do you see as the benefits of working or, in a smaller construction contractor, whether it's tier 2, tier 3 versus a tier 1?
If you're working in a smaller company, you're going to be more well-rounded in what you do, because you will get exposed to a lot of different facets of a project or the process of construction. So whereas if you come into a tier 1, you might be pigeonholed as a site engineer on joinery on a project or something very specific. And yes, you
services.
Services. And you might become, proficient in joinery or services, and that's great. But while you're doing that, the person over here has done a bit of contract admin, they've done some estimating, they've, driven a truck around, whatever it is that they had to do to get the job done. they've done that. So they come with a different skill set, and I find that they're more well-rounded. And some of the most successful candidates that we've had come into our business are the ones that have come through those lower tier construction businesses, because like I said earlier, they understand the value of time. They've seen the process. They understand what they want to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, they become really high performers. So I think it's the part, if you're not going to do a trade and you're just going to do pure construction management, I would recommend that pathway, you know, for everybody.
It's interesting because, you know, I have met with people that are working within tier one and have perhaps been like in a project engineer role for many, many years, and haven't been given the opportunity to move into project management because of the size of the business. And so they will take a step going into a smaller contractor, perhaps then in a PM role. And some will be quite okay in making that transition. Others actually really struggle because there isn't the systems and the layering, and you don't have a CA supporting you. You are the PM and you are the CA and you are the site coordinator, and
that's right.
you know, you're having to do it all. So there's definitely some thought has to be put in when you are looking at making the transition either way, up or down. When you've come into Adelaide, you were project director, successfully completed Adelaide Airport, then moved into a state management role, now into a general management role across 2 states. What makes you a successful leader? Clearly you're doing something right.
Well, I try and work on it is one thing. So it's not that I think that that what I'm doing today is what I need to do tomorrow, if that makes sense. Got to keep evolving and critiquing yourself and making sure that you're doing the right thing. I try to be really accessible. Like I try and keep my door to my office open so anybody can come.
You always
through.
take my call.
Always take your call, most of the time. And sometimes that's, you know, to my detriment. You know, you're trying to get some work done, but people, they just want that touch point with you.
And I think they actually need it more than what they maybe did in the past. I don't know. I just found that, you know, we've touched on in a couple of the podcasts that we've done that there is a little bit more lack of resilience, and that means that individuals need a lot more affirmation. So we've got to lift the communication.
Yes.
And then that, I think sometimes employees forget all the other things that we're having to juggle in our heads, as well as like we don't not want to give them the love, but we're also trying to win the work, deliver the work, think of a business strategy, make sure the business is profitable, fit it all in.
Correct. Yeah. But without the people doing what they're doing, then none of that matters. So it's about making sure that they're, you know, they feel accessible. So, you know, we try and have a really flat management structure. I'm very supportive of that type of regime. And I also just try and be consistent. So really consistent in my behaviour. So whether I'm having a shitty day or not, you know, if somebody comes into the office, I put the face on and they get consistency. So it's like
I do the same thing. Like I'm in the morning screaming at the kids because they're not hurrying up and I have to get into work. But as soon as I walk through the lift, I'm like,
game on. That's
I'm
right.
I'm here. Positive energy.
That's it. And so people know that whether they're talking about something good or something bad, you got to be considered. You got to be consistent in your approach and your response. Nobody wants to have somebody who's volatile and shit. I don't want to talk to them about this problem because they're going to scream at me. You know, they want people who are going to, or managers, leaders who are going to help guide them to solve the problem, or if it's necessary, get in and solve the problem. So I try and, even though I like to ensure my teams are as autonomous as possible, I'm always here and you know, accessible and available to help solve those problems with them.
So success comes in many forms, but for a lot of individuals, they see success in their career as being a leader, a manager. You know, being a leader, there's lots of different pressures from all different angles, and you know, and through it, there's different sacrifices that you need to make. I think to be a leader. Can you share a little bit? You know, so you're a dad with four children under the age of 12 now. Shows how long we've known each other. Still, that's a lot of kids under the age of 12. You know, what sacrifices are you currently having to make in your role now versus to maybe what, you know, a few years ago even, and even as a project manager to get to where you are?
When I lived in Geelong and worked in Melbourne, I would leave, you know, at 5 a.m.
Oh my gosh, you had to drive all that way.
So a lot of days I would get home, you know, I'd leave before the kids were up and I'd get home when the kids were asleep. So that that was trying at that time for me, but just as trying for Paula, my wife.
Yeah.
And so, but now it's different. Now it's, I travel every week, so I'm not home. And so it's like I'm away for 2-3 days a week, sometimes a whole week. So, the sacrifices that you make of not seeing your family are significant, but it's also the sacrifices that your family makes. Paula takes on a whole lot more work, more responsibility,
So it's a team decision.
Yeah.
Right?
So like my success, like I'm only successful because I've got support around me, and
I hope she got a really big Mother's Day present.
Yeah. I'm going to say she did. Of course. So I think that's the probably with anybody, whether you're a mum or a dad or whoever, it's your other half who is successful, who help you to become successful, because there's no way I could have 4 kids, care for them full time, and do this job. So it's the unseen sacrifices that where I might be the one that be seen as the leader or the head of the business, but without the sacrifice of others, then I wouldn't be here.
That's huge for you to make. I mean, that's quite a big sacrifice. Like there is like the school drop off and pick up and the driving and not seeing, but obviously now all the traveling as well.
Yeah.
There must be something that fills you up. Like you must love it. There has to be something there that's making you want to do the role that you're doing that just lights you up.
I'm competitive.
Yeah.
So that's one part of it.
Competitive with yourself or competitive against other
businesses? No, with myself.
Yeah.
So that's probably one thing. Yeah, so I guess I've just set myself a goal. I've set myself a time frame of that goal. And, once I kind of set out to achieve something, then I work, I'm very focused on that. But there's a time limit to it all, So the goal or the drive can't be there forever because you'll just burn out.
Yeah.
So it's about setting, time frames around those things. But yeah, look, I really love, I really like and love the people I work with, and it's always changing, because you always meet new people, and it's just it's very dynamic, and there's also a great sense of achievement. We're working in an industry where we have a finished product that you can drive past and say,
it's so cool.
I
love recruiting and construction.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I can see things happening.
Yeah.
You touched on burnout, and I think it is an important topic because, and I've spoken about this in my, the previous guests as well, because I'm seeing a lot more people. In some ways, I've become a little bit of a counsellor now, and there's a lot of ladies and men in their 40s that are coming and chatting to me around. They've lost their why, they've lost their passion for why they work in this industry. We're going into, we've got all these mega projects coming up. The next 2 years or beyond in Adelaide is huge. There is a significant talent shortage, and we're actually losing people. People are moving away from the industry when we need to be looking at ways to attract people into the industry. I'm even having young professionals in their 20s who are quite active in their sport who are going, and I've had to give up football training. I can't play games anymore because I can't go to football training because training starts at 5:30 and I'm still out on site until 6 o'clock. How, what is BESIX Watpac in your view across this? And then how did you balance it? Because, I know that you also are a big believer in exercise as well.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's wellness.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of it has to do with the connectivity and being connected on our phones and accessible all the time, and probably COVID sped that up a bit. So I think, it's also now when we're in families, both mum and dad will work. They'll and rightly so, have a career, but also that role of the carer is still there. So we're expected to do a full-time job or a part-time job, whatever it is, but also the full-time parenting or part-time parenting, however that works.
Yeah, so you go home, you still got to help with dinner and homework.
Yeah. Whereas
bedtime.
Whereas I don't know how long ago, 40, 50 years ago, it was different, right? And the roles were quite defined, and I'm not saying it was easier.
No, I get it. My dad never mopped the floors.
Yeah. So I think that with those expectations, which I completely support, and then the connectivity is that you never turn off. And so, you might, by the time you get everything done, it might be 10 or 11, and then you've got to get up and you've got to find time to exercise, and you've got to find time to make school lunches, and then your day starts again. So I think the demands of like modern lifestyle have a lot to answer for the burnout. So, you know, how we overcome that, I don't know, but I do think we'll see a lot more burnout. I think we'll see a lot more mid-career changes with people who might want to take a step back and do something else because it was just too hectic and they've burnt out.
Well, we're seeing a lot of project managers in actually across, whether they've been working in tier 3, tier 2 or tier 1, who have now gone out and set up their own businesses. Now, it's also not easy running a small business. And I remember starting my business up thinking, I have all the flexibility in the world, and that has not happened. Yeah. But I think they're doing that because they're feeling like they've got no other option. They're like, I can't see this getting any better. Maybe if I go out on my own, I've got more of an ability to do pick up or drop off or go to the gym. I think the only way it's worked for myself and my husband, who's also in a senior management role, is we've just, you know, every weekend we openly talk about our schedules. And, you know, we talk about what's important, like, you know, okay, he's got this board meeting or he has to be at this meeting or I need to be here. So can you do drop off, do you do pick up? And we plan our week every week. So that way we've got exercise, you know, and we also get the in-laws involved. Unfortunately, you don't have the babysitter. But, you know, I will get my mother-in-law and I'm not selfish, but I will say, I need you to come over because I need to go to the gym. And because I'm going mentally insane. And I think what's great about the industry is that, because men aren't always great communicators, but I think people are starting to openly talk a little bit more about how they're feeling. I'm not saying we need so much more of it, but I think, you know, for someone to come to me and have a chat about their career in their 20s and actually say, I can't play football anymore, and which is something that they love doing, I'm very much, no, you need to keep doing that. You need to find a way to keep doing that because, you know, like I said, your career is going to go for a long, long time.
That's right. Well, I think it's flexibility in construction is a hard thing as well. So if you're site-based, you know, it's 6 days a week. You know, we try and, you know, we do have flexible working policies and flexible arrangements where if you do need to go to training, then, you know, we want you to do that. If you coach a kids team, then we want you to do that. Being able to do it and actually forcing yourself to do it are two different things as well, because when you're on the job, people are focused, there's a deadline, there's always something that is, you know, more important than that at that point in time because you've got to achieve a goal. So, empowering people to do that, I think will go a long way.
Help a little bit.
Yeah.
BESIX Watpac have had really steady growth here in South Australia over the last few years, and, you know, recently have picked up some really exciting projects. And you've also been with BESIX Watpac, like I said, for a very long time. I'd love to know, why have you stayed with them for so long? Because, you know, these days people want to just keep chopping and changing. But, you know, I'm you know, meeting a lot of leaders who have been with the same organisation for 15 plus years.
I get asked that question a lot. And it's not that I'm afraid to change. It's like I'm open to that. Like in terms of if I wasn't happy, I'd be prepared to do that, right? But at every step of the way, I've always been given another opportunity to do a new role, to learn something new, to push myself, whatever it is. So, and I think that's what everybody's looking for is career progression or development where the job remains fresh, it remains dynamic. And sometimes I've just been in the right place at the right time. So, and because there have been iterations of, you know, one company purchased another and then another one purchased another to get to where we are today, they are all very different businesses. So in a way, it has been 3 different companies. It's just they've all been kind of under the single ownership structure. And what that has done, it's always given me opportunity. I've seen 3 takeovers now, and there's always a group of people who will flee because fear of the unknown. But generally the people that stay will find the opportunity because it'll come along. So I guess that's why, is that I've always had opportunity. I've always had really good engagement with the business, and, you know, it's and as the businesses have evolved, I guess it's always, luckily enough, it's kind of always to align with my value set as well about how we do business and the type of projects. So been very fortunate in that way.
So when you're interviewing someone for BESIX Watpac, What are the key attributes that you look for?
Yeah, we call it the Watpac way, or the BESIX Watpac way. So that's how we describe our culture. And we were talking about this in a management meeting the other day. And no one could really describe what it is, but if you know what, once you see it, you know it, right? And I've thought about it quite a bit. And what I'm really looking for, and how do I think somebody will fit into that culture is, first of all, are you a good person? And I think that goes a long way to making sure that you will bring the right culture that we want of openness, candor, being aligned with our company values, because you can teach the technical, you can do all that, but you can't teach people by the time they're in their 20s or 30s or whatever age they're joining us to necessarily be good people. So if we can get good people in, we can then teach them the technical, we can teach them the Watpac way, and hopefully over that journey, they become a BESIX Watpac person and long-term employee. And then I guess with being a good person, with the right morals and what have you, then being a good communicator is really important, because we're people managers, ultimately. So I think if you combine those few things, then you can really develop and harness good talent, over a longer journey, rather than looking at somebody necessarily saying, hey, I've got this role to fill and I need them to tick all 10 boxes. Like I think no candidate ever ticks all 10 boxes. No. So you have to find the ones that are really important. Some will tell you they do. Yeah, exactly. So you have to find the ones that are important to the culture, and then make sure that they tick those boxes. And then I find that if we get those right, more often than not, they become successful and a really key part of our business.
I know that in the last sort of few years, and you've been a major driver in this, is about diversity and inclusion at BESIX Watpac here locally. I'm not too sure, also I guess interstate as well. And you're now on the diversity committee for Property Council. BESIX Watpac also a big support of NAWIC here in South Australia and Australia-wide. What are the key things, apart from the opportunity to work on great projects, obviously having a strong leader, career development opportunities within the business, is there anything else that sets BESIX Watpac apart? So, from some of the, I guess, your competitors in the industry.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really good question.
I'm asking this selfishly for myself right now.
I'm just giving you the notes. Look, I think it's about, I really do feel, you want people to come to work. You want people to say good things about your business and how we go about it. So it is, what sets us apart is really our culture, which we hold really close to our hearts. And that's reflected in the fact that I'm not the only person who's been there for 15 to 20 years. There's dozens of us across the country and internationally as well in the BESIX Group. So I think it is about having that commonality around a cultural alignment. I'm probably not answering your question in a really specific way, but some construction businesses will be just about the outcome. Some will be the outcome. We're more about the process and the journey to achieve the outcome, because I think we get better results that way.
Well, I know from my perspective, when I'm speaking to architects in South Australia or clients or project managers, they've always seen, whether it's led by you, but BESIX Watpac to be a business that it does really want to collaborate, where they want to get good outcomes for everyone involved. And, I feel that, you're also someone as a leader that you're super approachable. Like you said, you take yourself seriously, but not too seriously, which allows people to feel like they can actually have a genuine conversation with you. Whilst I think some people would be scared to go up to the general manager and actually have a conversation or give them a phone call.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think yesterday we did a startup meeting with Renewal SA for our deep maintenance and modification facility project, and we had a facilitator, and it was all about collaboration. It was all about getting to know each other. And what I spoke to the BESIX people, and we had some consultants there, and we also had some subcontractors, and we spoke about getting to know each other a bit better and understand, and therefore we'll have the opportunity to understand where each other's viewpoints might be coming from, particularly if we don't agree necessarily. but we'll be able to understand why we might be coming from that perspective. And I was talking in that meeting about, that really is the glue that will bind us through the journey, through the tough times. So that collaboration piece is massive. We are a manager of people in construction, whether it's our own people, subcontractors, consultants, like that. It's people that build buildings, and the most successful projects are projects that have really strong leadership and collaboration across all levels of the project.
Yeah. So now we look at where we want to go to the next 5 years. So I'd love to know for you, what is your focus, personal focus for the next 5 years? And then also talking through about, I guess, the focus mainly for South Australia.
Yep.
For BESIX Watpac for the next 5 years as well.
I think, well, for
any more children now?
No,
done.
Okay,
no more children.
4 and done.
4 and done.
I think, look, for BESIX Watpac in South Australia, it's about consolidation of the growth that we've had over the last four or so years. So we have, every year we've grown the size of our business. That we've got, we've grown the number of people in our business, and we're probably taking it to a size where it's sustainable, but we wouldn't want to necessarily.
So how many do you have here in Adelaide now?
Well, we've got about 80 I think, off the top of my head. And I think that's about the sweet
spot.
The sweet spot for consistency in a market that can be up and down. Now, we know that the market is going to be more up than down over the next few years, and that might mean a bit more growth or a bit more surge and then drop back down. But traditionally, the BESIX Watpac business in South Australia has been up and down over following the cycle, and the next 5 years will be consolidation of that growth to, we might keep growing a little bit, but really trying to be steady. One of the key
things why people get a little bit scared about Tier 1, because, a business might only have 2 or 3 projects, and if they don't pick up another one, then it's like a whole project team can be gone. So it's great for, you want to grow, but having stability and measured growth is really important.
Well, I think when you interview people, you want to really have a genuineness about being able to give them a career.
Yeah.
And they're putting a lot of faith in you, telling them that they can have that, because they've all got, most of them have a mortgage to pay or at least other bills to pay. So when you're hiring somebody, you have to be as genuine as you can to make sure that they understand that there is a long-term opportunity there for them. So since from the time I was the state manager, I think in 2021, we haven't had one redundancy in the business, which is, people have left to pursue other things, and that's fine, and that's just the normal course of business. But I think that consistency of knowing that if you want a job with us and you're here and you're doing a great job, then there'll always be work through there. And I think that's what we owe to our people for loyalty. And we do, have a really good, loyal workforce, and that, that workforce continues to evolve and grow, but it's, something we're pretty proud of, or very proud of, actually.
Yeah. And so for you personally, what's some of the goals for you for the next 5 years?
Well, I guess as I relinquish some control in South Australia, with my new role, is just to make sure that is not undone and it is built upon, and that foundation leads to further success. And then in Victoria, it's interesting. We've had massive growth there over the last 3 years, and now it's about trying to consolidate that back to a point of manageable point, and really establish and bring together a senior leadership team within Victoria and South Australia that is highly aligned, understands the mission that we're going on, continuously looking at what we're doing and how we can improve it. So we become really consistent in our approach with our clients, and we deliver our projects on time, and I guess most of all we need to be profitable.
Yeah. And I'm guessing Adelaide is now home. You love it here, don't you?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
You're not going back?
No,
not going
never,
back. Great. So you were happy that you made that transition from, so anyone interstate, Adelaide's great.
Come over.
Adelaide's great.
Yeah.
We're going to finish up on one more question.
Sure.
If you could go back in time and give one piece of advice to someone that's actually starting their career in construction, what would it be?
Ask as many questions as you can. Yeah.
Excellent.
And listen.
And listen and take on and take on the feedback.
Yeah.
Excellent. Al, thank you so much for being on Leading Large. It's been brilliant to get to know you a little bit more, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the success that BESIX Watpac and you do over the next few years.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.